देवहितं यदायुः। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। Let us now pray together. We offer our salutations to the all-loving being who endows all beings with consciousness. We meditate on the Lord, who is the origin of the universe. Lord, thou abidest in all. Thou art all. Thou assumest all forms. Thou art the origin and goal of all. Thou art the self of all. Thou art existence, knowledge and bliss. Salutations unto thee. May the world be peaceful. May the wicked become gentle. May all creatures think of mutual welfare. May their minds be occupied with what is spiritual and abiding. May our hearts be immersed in selfless love for the Lord. Peace, peace, peace be unto all. Yajjagrato duramudaithi daivam tadusuptasya tathaiveti duram gamam jyotisham jyotirekam tanme mana shivasankalpamastu. That which remains awake and goes far, not only in my waking state, but in my sleep as well. May that mind of mine be full of noble thoughts. Om, peace, peace, peace. Let us close our eyes and try to feel the core of our consciousness, our being. It is here that is our life. It is here that we are one with everything. It is here that we live. It is here that we love. It is here that we are bliss. It is here that everything, all forms, all space and time dissolve into transcendental oneness. Om. Peace, peace, peace. Actually, the topic that I am discussing today or plan to discuss today is a very complex topic, and actually I had been thinking about this idea for many decades as I was an undergrad student of chemistry. These ideas, after I read a book about virus, and that it is on a kind of no man's land between living and non-living. I started thinking very deeply about it, but then as gradually I read Swami Vivekananda's books, I took up this monastic life, and then I studied many Upanishads and Bhagavad Gita and the works related to Sri Ramakrishna, Holy Mother, Swami Vivekananda, that the topic became clearer and clearer to me. And nowadays, for last over a year or so, everybody is thinking, talking, reading, even writing about virus. This is a common phenomenon, friends, that when a word becomes familiar, we use it. We first use it thinking that I don't know about it. But when we keep on using it and hearing it, reading about it for a long time, somehow or other we deceive ourselves that I understand about it. That usage gives the idea that yes, I understand about it. Like it happens with this automobiles, computers, such. We use that, but how much do we understand about how they work, how they are made, what really happens inside when I type something on the keyboard, what processes are happening inside when, like, I send this document to print, what was happening, how it went there, and then how, even without any wire in between them, how it got printed there, I really do not know. But since I use it all the time, even as somebody who has not any idea of the science behind it, feels that yes, I know it, it is Wi-Fi. What does it mean? Who doesn't know that is Wi-Fi? There is a joke about it that I had told it earlier also, that how people boast that somebody said, well, look, that it is in England, they said that, look, we found that in excavation that 5,000 years ago we had some metal pots and pans. That means there was metallurgy 5,000 years ago in our country. Then the Germans said, well, we were digging like that, and after excavation we discovered that 7,000 years ago we found a wire. That means 7,000 years ago we had electricity. And then Indian didn't have much to say, but they said, yes, we had excavations 10,000 years ago and we didn't find much wire. But that means we had wireless 10,000 years ago. So it is funny, but then how we use the words, thinking that we know something about it. This is how psychology works. The familiarity makes us feel that, yeah, I understand, I know what it is. So that has happened a lot about virus, that it is, that we feel that, yeah, I know it is virus living or non-living? And then it is all we have made this division really. When you think about it, living and non-living, we have made an arbitrary division into this existence. Living and non-living, right from the school days, we are fed with this. Certain things are living, certain things are non-living, but it is arbitrary. Means it depends on how I think about life. There is no line of demarcation actually that you can say living and non-living. Not too long ago, I was talking to one of my friends, and he said, well, virus is not really living. And why? Why do you think like that? Because it is just a molecule. But how do you think that a molecule means not non-living? Hey, you see, I cannot think that somebody can take a rebirth after dying. We are born again and again. That after we die, the body falls off, then we assume another body depending on how our desires are and how much we are capable of paying for the new body. That determines what kind of new body we will get. Just as when we want a new car, what kind of car I want and what kind of car I can pay for. So that determines what car I get. So similarly, I can, but can anybody be taking up a body of a virus? Can somebody be reborn as a virus? And I said, why not? I mean, there should be a reason to say that, why not? No, I don't believe, he said. I don't believe it can happen. Why not? Is there a sound rationale behind it? Well, that is what happens. That we make this arbitrary division. And study of virus is very, very important to see how there is actually no line of demarcation according to it is. I mean, you can draw a line of demarcation according to what you think. There is actually, it is just arbitrary and subjective. It is like this is a commonly known idea amongst biologists, and especially it was some decades ago a very confirmed idea that the living beings, they have a cellular structure. There is a cell, and the cell is the basic organism. The smallest organism is a cell which has inside it a protoplasmatic structure, a metabolic system to absorb the food and convert it, expand by that, and divide itself. It propagates by dividing itself. So it has the propagation, it has the metabolic features, and thus the cell is the unit of life. Now, certainly as one examines virus, it doesn't have that. It doesn't have a cellular structure. But does that mean you have decided to make a box that which has a cellular structure has life? Cellular structure has these features, that it has a metabolic system contained in it. But does it mean that that is the essence of life? Just to give you an analogy in the scientific world, in the late 1800s, the idea started a little before that, but it became a confirmed notion that atoms are the building blocks in the universe. Atom is the smallest thing that you can think of, cannot be divided further. And this idea, even after the research went on showing that no, the atom can be further divided. Atom can show the more fundamental particles in it. Yet, this notion remained intact for a long time. I remember reading in a very popular course book for the Bachelors of Chemistry degree that was published in 1939, when the research has advanced enough to show that there are all these fundamental particles. Yet what was fed to the college students was this, that atoms are the ultimate particles. And then in 1939, the publisher had put a footnote there. Recently, much actually decades before 1939, but it was said recently, there had been the discovery of certain particles which are inside the atom, and which are much smaller than the size of atom. But this is an evolving research. So, what I mean is that at one time it was thought that atoms are the building blocks, atoms are the fundamental units. Atoms cannot be further broken down. Well, that myth broke. This is how the science develops, friends. Analysis. Go to analyze. This is, you see, you will find this tendency right from the childhood in human beings, that they want to, if they get something, they want to cut and see what is inside it. They want to break it, that how it is made, let me see. I used to break, those batteries, the dry cells, the batteries, and it was printed on that don't break, the things are hazardous and all that, but who cares, So it is, break them, and to find out what is inside. What I wanted, that is the tendency, innate in us to analyze. Analyze, because that is the way to find out the truth. We all are actually seeking the truth. I will come to that a little later in this lecture, that what is this? This is the idea of analysis. It's latent in human beings, always wanting to cut and find out. But not just enough. There is another equally strong tendency, analysis and then generalization. Whatever we discover in one place, I broke one battery and found out what is going on there, means just to see what is inside, the contents. When I see other batteries, I don't need to break them. I generalize that all batteries, they would have all as similar contents. So this is the process of generalization that makes for the laws of science. You analyze a few facts, come to certain truths, and then generalize them, that is how this will work. Because in a few cases it has been found to be true, and then we correlate them. It is like this, it happens in all fields. Like the most difficult, most unpredictable fields of, the stocks, the finances and business. You see, there also people do the generalized predictions based on analysis of the previous data, that assuming that the things will be like this, there is a big, always, thousands of researchers are there in this somewhat lucrative field, and they are paid very highly for what? Making projections of based on the analysis. They analyze and then generalize for the future, that this is the trend that will happen. So similarly, we generalize, and then thus we see that what we have, that is the nearest thing to analyze, and then whatever, everybody is convinced that I have life, I am living, isn't it? You are convinced, isn't it, Jui, that I am living. So now, whatever is like me must be living. That same thumb rule, if something walks like a duck, talks like a duck, then it must be duck. So, simple. So, since I am living, then all that is like me should be living. So, that which walks should be living. I talk rather too much, so it is that which talks must be living. Now, thus all these different animals that walk, they came to be thought as living. Then some will walk but don't talk. What about them? They don't have life enough. They have 50%. They walk, but they don't talk. We don't realize that we don't have the ears sharp enough to understand that their talk. It is because whatever is like me has life. So many worms, they walk, you see them crawling, but you don't listen to their talk. You see ants, do they talk? Well, later on the research shows that they have very evolved communication system of them. They do not talk like us, but they have a signaling and communication system quite advanced. So whatever it may be, so we started gradually seeing that, okay, this also has life, this also has life, this also has life. Then where does this stop? The ancient Vedantic thinkers, the sages, the seers, they came to this utmost generalization that this division itself is fictitious. Where is life? We must see that. And it was such a thrilling experience for me when I read an article, by the father of computer science, Alan Turing. He was a mathematician, a British mathematician, and he wrote an article, Can Machines Think? Can machines think? Start thinking. Even if you are machines, start thinking. It is, yes, the machines, can they think? And then he came with the answer that if human beings think, then we cannot exclude the machines from that. We can simulate the machines which would now correspond to human thinking. So it is, and that is going on. We know the artificial intelligence and the development of it. So many things, it was so astonishing. And when we are just caught in certain, boxes, we refuse to go beyond that. I had told you earlier that I was telling the manager of our publication department. I used to be in Nagpur, and it was about 1988, 89. That, all this style of printing, we were printing books. There was now most of you do not know that there used to be fonts, the metal fonts, they had to be arranged, and then they would be spread with ink, and then the printing would happen. So I said, this is all going to go soon. The computers will start composing. He looked at me so incredulously that it is, what are you talking? Means saying that you seem to be more foolish today than on other days. And I said, no, how can computers compose? I said, that is what, how human beings compose. The same thing will be done by computers. Don't waste my time, go. It is, and it is not only then. Even now I was telling about the life and all these things. One of our very scientifically oriented and brilliant members told me, Swami, you are good for sci-fi writing. It is. I said, no sci-fi, this is something that is, it is. But that is what happens, that he didn't believe. After 2 years, he had to do that, he could see computerized composing and all that. In 1990, we started doing it at our center itself. So what I mean is that there is the denial based on our prejudices that we do not want to get out of. And a healthy mind sign is to step out of those prejudices. In this analysis today, I therefore appeal to you to keep that tendency to analyze and see the underlying truth. I give that analogy many times that for babies, animal crackers, the giraffe is definitely different from lion. And then if it wants to eat a giraffe, well, if you give lion, it will throw it away. But let that child grow, let it go to primary school, then the child knows that the underlying substance in all animal crackers is same. So you come to see gradually that if this is living, then all that exists, mark the words, all that exists is living. This division is a totally arbitrary one. We found, and still people find it difficult even after the scientific discoveries. In 1939 or before that, you start seeing these ideas becoming, slowly trickling in science. And that idea is that of virus. That RNA, DNA, these were the basic things in cells. Cells, well, yes, they are living, but what makes them living is these information strands, decoding strands, that is RNA, DNA. So that is the more fundamental principle of life. And then, well, the virus is that. It is. So it is alive, very much alive, only its lifestyle is different. Everybody has different lifestyle, isn't it, Richard? Even amongst human beings, Swami's lifestyle is not Richard's lifestyle, and that is not our aunt's lifestyle either. We have different lifestyle. So, cellular life is different from virus life. Virus, one difference it is shown that virus needs some external host to grow on. Yes, like it is that virus is more intelligent, we can say by that it like many creepers and all, they need some other tree on which they grow as parasites. Does it mean that it doesn't have life, that creeper doesn't have life? It has life, but it grows like that. It snatches food from others. And we Swamis are also called by many as freeloaders, because we don't earn our livelihood. So it is, the Swamis are freeloaders. So it has been told that the monastics, it is an old debate, that they are parasites on society. So, it is, I hope you don't think like that, but it is, so virus is in a way, you can say, more intelligent. Nowadays you hear, now again because you hear it often and use it often, you think that you know it. Cloud computing, cloud computing. One of our devotees here had a computer, a laptop, which only had the internet connectivity. It didn't have what is called a storage device. No hard disk was there. No programs were there. And then it all used the programs in the cloud. So it is, he said, very simple, it is all stored there. It is grown there. But as I want. It is it is determined by what I do. But I use that environment. I do not trouble myself by keeping a big hard disk and lot of programs again and again, every now and then. The new programs keep on coming. I have to get the updates and all that. Now, this is more convenient. Use them from the cloud. So the virus is something like that. It makes a toehold. You see that the first figure in this life of virus, the first that it is like there is this like a spider, these legs are there. Now that is how, with that, in a cell that is suitable for it, which has such grooves, the structure is having such grooves where it can now lay its hold. That is why certain types of virus, they can infect certain cells, not some other types of cells. There where you see some virus, they can affect only plants. They cannot affect, many of the animals. Then there are those who can affect the human beings, not only animals but human beings. Some affect only human beings but not the animals or plants. So because there are different way of getting a toehold. Toehold is the word we commonly use, a toehold. So it depends on what kind of toes that virus has and what kind of that structure that cell has. It's a very interesting study, friends. I will show you for last some days I had been immersed in this study, and I thank one of our very close, very brilliant members here, whom you know, but I am not naming her. She sent me a lot of wonderful materials, did lot of research work, and sent me very nice material to read about. What is happening when an animal, that it was thought that these viruses, they would infect, like there was a long time back the virus that affected chicken. But it was thought that it is only chicken that are getting affected, it doesn't go to human beings. For some time it did work, but then it started infecting human beings. So many got infected by that what was called chicken flu. Chicken flu. Now what happened there? An interface got built where, the virus that could infect chicken would get mutated. This is a principle in Darwin's theory of evolution. The mutation, you hear these words these days a lot. This is a new mutant, new variant of that coronavirus is coming and so forth. They mutate, change themselves to adapt to the situation. This virus, they adapt to the situation to get more prey. It is because they all want food. So they go, they find that, as they are growing, they need more food, more cells. Different type of cells are available. So what they do? They change. They develop an interface. And thus, through that, they infect other animals. There are viruses that infect just the plants. Plant virus, that is what we see the diseases in the plant too. Then they come to animals, they come to human beings through interface. And this principle of interface is very interesting, that is used like now what I am speaking. It is an interface is provided whereby you hear that through the speakers. It is happening, but how? There is an interface that my voice, these sound waves, they get converted into electromagnetic waves, they get processed suitably in that sound box kept up, the amplifier. And then those are sent back to the speakers. And then there they get converted again into this longitudinal sound waves, and we hear them. So there is much more interfacing. When many who are now watching this on web, what has happened? The audio-visual data, it is now what is happening visually and audibly, that gets converted into data. An interface is there, to convert this into data, information. This information is sent as a packet. In those who are joining, tuning in live, they are getting, it as a streaming data. And then that is an interface. Then there is again a conversion at the other end, whereby this data gets reconverted into this, what you see as the live picture. So I knew that this can happen between the computer virus and the virus that we call biological virus. When I made this suggestion, somebody, no, this computer virus, they are different, these are biological virus. They are not different, friends. They are not different, not very different. I mean, they can get converted into each other. I was talking to one of my friends who was a postdoc researcher at Brown University here in computer science. Now he has gone back to India, a very brilliant guy. So I asked him that, do you think that the infection can change, virus can change from the biovirus to computer virus? and then can be again transported as the biovirus. He said, why not? It is the question of just making the proper interface. If you have that interface, it will happen. And then, as I told, I was reading the articles for this lecture just out of my interest. And then so many articles of modern researchers have mentioned this point, that computer virus and the virus that we call biovirus. Just for showing the distinction, actually they are not different. They can be converted from one to another. I will give you the references at the end of this. The slides will be shown. What is it? And then I come to Bhagavad Gita, that where I saw that, what is the difference between that which is the non-living and living? And the answer given in the 7th chapter is very interesting. And the 4th and the 5th verse says that all that we think of, I am just reading the translation because I am looking at the clock too, so it is, the time is passing very fast, that all the elements, it is mentioned like in Sanskrit we say earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intellect and egoism. This is my lower nature divided into these 8 aspects, that 5 elements, and then the mind, intellect and ego. These are all lower manifestation of the divine. They are the inert. Like we say that I am living, but is just if I take out the nail, is it living? You will say, well, it is just a piece of matter. I am living. If you cut the nose and keep it there, and you won't do it, I hope, but will that be living? So no, it is it is just that flesh, bone and that structure. So whole body is that. Where is the life? Show me where is the life. It is everywhere and it is nowhere. All these are just the lower nature. And then what is the higher nature? The next verse says, God says, then I enter into everything in my higher nature. And that makes everything alive, conscious. That is my higher nature. The lower nature and higher nature. You can see it like this. Suppose, a good analogy, that it is, you have, say, 1,000 pots filled with water, kept out in the sun. And then every pot will have a sun. Now, is sun there or not? Depends, it is there, you see it. Can you take it out from that water? No, it is not there. Exactly like that, friends. Life is here and is not here. It is reflected here. The real life is same in all. The same self in all. The life is not different from here to here to here. It is just as the sun is the same. One sun is shining through all, so the same one God, one self, whatever name you give it, that is in all. And then he says in the same chapter that describing, see, in everything, that thatness to that is imparted by this higher nature of me, the living principle in me. For example, you see the different entities like our Peter sitting in the back, and he say looked different 20 years ago when I came. Now he looks different, but still I identify him. I identify. What is the basis of identification? I see so many, that children. 20 years ago they were children. This boy, was a very small child when he used to come. And then if now everything changed, but still I say, you're the same boy. He would also say, yes, at that time I used to jump about and sit in your room on that very comfortable chair. So do you remember that? Yeah. So it is like that, What makes the thing same in spite of change? In spite of everything change, can you identify that because of which we see that sameness? Everything has changed, and yet something is same. That is that higher nature that gives anything its thatness. It is thatness. So that is the source of life. He says here, Jivanam Sarvabhuteshu, I am the life in everything. And here I remember the great research work done actually in late 1800s by the famous scientist. He continued that research in 1900s also. His name was Sir Jagdish Chandra Bose, a very well-known Indian scientist who, according to Encyclopedia Britannica and the other somewhat conservative journals or documents, they said that he was at least 60 years ahead of his time when he started working on this life. He was a physicist basically, and was actually the inventor of these radio transmission, although Marconi gets the credit. Not that Marconi didn't do anything, Marconi did a lot of work, but Jagdish Chandra Bose's work was a primary basis for that. So anyway, he then saw that what is the difference between living and non-living. I am not going to tell the technical details, but it is, very interesting to see in that very primitive kind of small labs. He made his own tools to see that how a response to stimulus in all different what you call the human beings or the other animals or the plants or the metals. And he saw that they show the same irritation. They show the same irritation. Like if I say some things to Teresa, when she doesn't like it, she feels irritated. So it is, so same kind of, now if that irritation from the brain is mapped, then it will be shown as some electric fluctuations. Now the same thing, do it to a plant, same pattern will emerge. Do it to the metal, same pattern will emerge. He did so many experiments, and that one of his very famous, that is a practically experienced things in this that the metal fatigue. So like if you are constantly given work, then we all feel after it, you feel fatigue. That is a sign of life, isn't it? That fatigue is seen in metals also. In all the other, what we call inanimate, they also show the signs of fatigue. So let me now quote from him, it is his publication is many publications that he had, and then I am basically going to quote from two publications. One is his well-known book, Response in the Living and Non-Living, Sir Jagdish Chandra Basu. But although he titles it like that, then breaks the myth of this division. That, and I am quoting partially from that, nowhere in the entire range of those response phenomena, he has given all those pictures of how these records look. Nowhere in the entire range of these response phenomena, inclusive as that is of metals, plants, and animals, do we detect any breach of continuity. In the study of processes apparently so complex as those of irritability that I spoke about, we must, of course, expect to be confronted with many difficulties. Many difficulties, then I am not going to quote because there is a passage. The difficulties are only because of the prejudice and desire to reject all this nonsense. They will call it nonsense, will not go deep enough to study it and to understand. Many prominent scientists of early 1900s and even some later till about 1930, so many of the scientists, prominent ones, they rejected Einstein's theory of relativity as wrong. It is not right. Because anything that goes against Newton's ideas has to be wrong. It is what is called scientific superstition. We get that grounded in some kind of science that one has read and then think that that is right. No. So Jagdish Chandra Bose was aware of that, and in fact there were so many reactions that are, you will be able to see those, read those if you look for those, that yes, so it is therefore even now wrongly stated that contribution of Jagdish Chandra Bose as he showed that plants to have life. That is an understatement. That is, only that part is told because somehow people could be made to accept that the plants do have life. Although vegetarians these days started accepting it, still they say, no, that is lower life. That is, ours is the animal. We don't eat animals because animals scream. The vegetables don't scream. And so vegetable, we don't really kill them. I said, nonsense. It is, it is equal killing. Why you think that they have lower life? They have very good life. It is. So, therefore, people did not accept what he actually said that I am going to read now. This is from the paper that he submitted to the Royal Society of London, that I have shown you this evening the autographic records of the history of stress and strain in the living and non-living. How similar are the writings? So similar indeed that you cannot tell one apart from the other. Among such phenomena, how can you draw a line and say, here is the physical ends and the physiological begins? Such absolute barriers do not exist. And I continue with the quotations, that it was when I came upon the mute witness of these self-made records and perceived in them one phase of unity that bears within it all things, the mote that quivers in the ripples of light, the teeming life upon our earth, and the radiant suns that shine above us. It was then, mark the word, that he didn't say sun, suns. All the different bodies that we see shining, all of them, he says that what is it? It was then that I understood for the first time a little of that message proclaimed by my ancestors on the bank of Ganges 30 centuries ago. They who see but one in all the changing modifications of this universe, unto them belongs the eternal truth, unto none else, unto none else. This is a free translation from a verse from Kathopanishad. Similar verse you see in Shvetashvatar Upanishad as well, that Nityo Anityanam Chetanash Chetananam Eko Bahunam Yav Vidadhati Kaman Tam Atmastham Yenu Pashyanti Dhira Tesham Shantim Shashvati Netaresham. That it is unto them this truth dawns, who can see that one that is threaded into everything as its life. So this is a very important idea. And then we see in a paper written in 1937, although this scientist got Nobel Prize in 1969. His name was Max Delbruck, known for a very pioneering research in virus. He had written this article and then that it was titled Riddle of Life. So he showed that it is the encoding that is the essence of life, and that is where virus and all what you call as the cellular life have the common feature of living. So I will read a little bit from it. It's a somewhat technical paper, but I will read a few lines from that. While molecular genetics has taught us the cellular biology is one thing, molecular biology is something deeper than that. Actually, virology is called molecular biology because it is just a single molecule. So, the molecular genetics has taught us the proper way to reconcile the characteristics of the living world, generation, development towards a goal, and decay with the contrasting incorruptibility and planlessness of the physical world. It has not resolved our uncertainty about the proper way to relate this language to the notion of consciousness. He goes deeper to that it is, and says that that is really the life, the consciousness. So it is, and he says that, look, it is the notion of truth that is prior to all research. It is, he has given the analogies of how the computer-based truth, the mathematical logic-based system truths, they all depend on a prior notion of truth. And then it is this prior notion of truth, he says, that seems to be, to me, the center of life. that something is, you have the idea that it is truth. It is not a product but a priori. So, we see thus the virus, life of a virus is so intricate. I would present the resources that I used for this, and you can certainly, if interested, look into these resources which I used and many more. I did not bring the material from others, but they are very interesting. But these are viruses alive? Perhaps we are asking the wrong question. An article by Hugh Harris, the link, Google link I have given there. Then, could human and computer viruses merge, leaving both realms vulnerable? Although this possibility may sound like a foray into science fiction, information security experts believe the blurring of the boundaries between the computer and biological viruses is not so far-fetched and could have very real consequences. So, that gives us a peep into the nature of life, and let us try to feel that the life in everything actually is divine. That is where we are one. Like that very beautiful song that sometimes is sung here as well. In many churches it is commonly sung. We are one in the spirit, we are one, and so forth. Where are we one? In the spirit. That is one, where we have all our love. Otherwise it is just a biological attraction, repulsion. But where is the love? In the spirit. Where is the oneness? It is in the spirit. Where is all knowledge? It is in the spirit. And therefore, that spirit is the goal of life. When we turn our attention to this, then it gets called the spiritual life. Thank you, friends. Let us meditate on this idea for a few seconds. And in case if you have questions, we can take them up for deliberation, a short deliberation, because already I have taken more time today. Any question, friends? No? Good. What? You have question, Richard?
I have a comment.
Comment. Okay.
The medium.
Huh?
The medium itself, computer, is like a virus.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, it is. There is the subtle body. The program is there. All those things are its subtle body. Yeah. Yes. You were asking something? No. This lady? No. Okay. Very good. Charlie, what is your comment?
I'm just curious, why are you a vegetarian?
Huh?
Why are you a vegetarian?
Well, because that is what suits my digestive system, that's all. And there is no impending compulsion to give up that vegetarian food and take up beef, So, but if there are the circumstances which compel me, that somebody holds the gun, hey, eat beef or I will kill you, then I may eat beef, no problem, yeah. Yes, is a...
My question is, if even like the minerals show life properties based on like Bose's research,
Yeah.
so how should that change how we think of like a corpse, for example?
Well, therefore, let me tell here that I was planning to tell that therefore those sages see everything pulsating with life. They respect everything. You see Holy Mother showing respect to a broom. She said, now you must respect it. Everything is full of that. Sri Ramakrishna mentioned many times that how he sees everything is full of life. That the sages actually see that everything is pulsating with the same one living spirit. Yeah, and so how should our attitude change? That is what is I mentioned at the end of the lecture. See the one in all. And that Bhagavad Gita calls that as yoga. Samatvam yoga uchyate. That this learning to see that what is here is also here, is also here, is in every single thing, including coronavirus. So, now you will not hate anything. And that is what Upanishad says. The one who sees learns to see this. Na tato na vijugupsate. The hatred will go away from life. Do you like hatred, Ajay? No. Yeah. So that is the hatred will go away. That is what Jesus says, He is actually quoting from the Old Testament there. That love thy neighbor as thyself. As you love yourself, as you will love everything else too. That will be the effect of that seeing the same life. So when you try to do that, exactly that is how one should mold the life on the principle of this. Everything is living and the same life pervades in everything. Thank you. So let me make a few announcements. Where is the May calendar? It may be there. So, yeah, here it is. So next Sunday is when, there is the birth anniversary of one of the greatest philosophers and teachers of mankind, Shankaracharya. His birth anniversary, it is actually on Monday, but we will take up the discussion of his teachings. And his teachings are all in the form, of the Upanishadic commentaries. So, one of that very well-known statement is, "Thou art that." One of the famous great sentences of Vedanta, "Thou art that." So we shall take up discussion on that on coming Sunday. And other programs during the week will go on as usual. Tuesday and Friday classes. The Tuesdays it is the Sri Ramakrishna and his divine play, and on Fridays it is the stories from Srimad Bhagavatam, and the morning, evening meditations and prayers, they will also be going on as usual. You are welcome to join these. Of course, those meditations are not live telecast or anything, so you have to actually come and join. And so let us now do the concluding prayers. May the Divine, who is Father in heaven of the Christians, Holy One of the Jewish faith, Allah of the Muslims, Buddha of the Buddhists, Tao of the Taoists, Great Spirit of the Native Americans, our Mazda of the Zoroastrians and Brahman of the Hindus, lead us from the unreal to the real, from darkness to light, from death to immortality. May the all-loving being manifest himself unto us and grant us abiding understanding and all-consuming divine love. Peace, peace, peace be unto all. And then those who would like should sit for meditation too.
Breaker of all our worldly bondage and adore you too. Stainless Lord, assuming human form. Stainless Lord, assuming human form. Transcendent yet filled with love. You free us from the stain of sin and ornament our world. Consciousness is your form. Your eyes always purified by knowledge. Your eyes always purified by knowledge. Looking at them, religion is gone. Ocean of shining love and feeling, ever inebriated in your infinite love. Your feet always dear to your devotees. Your feet always dear to your devotees. From abode to cross this wall. Revealed to us as God incarnate and the Lord of all things, helping us join with you. Your mind's always set in the divine light. Your mind's always set in the divine light. This we can see through your grace. Destroyer of our worldly sorrow and compassion soul, infinite is your word. Your life's offered for the world's deliverance. Your life's offered for the world's deliverance. Saving Greetings to you, O Lord, beyond both speech and mind. Greetings to you, O Lord, beyond both speech and mind. Yet you are the basis of both. O Lord, yet you are the basis of both. Great light of all lights, blazing in the heartscape. Great light of all lights, blazing in the heartscape. Darkness is destroyed by your light. Oh Lord, darkness is destroyed by your light. Greetings to you, O Lord, beyond both speech and mind. Greetings to you, O Lord, beyond both speech and mind. Yet you are the basis of both. O Lord, yet you are the basis of both. Great light of all lights, blazing in the heartscape. Great light of all lights, blazing in the heartscape. Darkness is destroyed by your light. Oh Lord, darkness is destroyed by your light. De langa ranga bhanga, these are all the sounds of Vedanta. De langa ranga bhanga, these are all the sounds of Vedanta. Spiritual songs devotees are singing for your worship divine. Spiritual songs devotees are singing for your worship divine. Jaya Jaya for your worship divine. Hara Hara for your worship divine. Shiva Shiva for your worship divine. Breaker of all our worldly bondage and adored by all, we adore you too. Jai Shri Guru Maharaj Ji ki Jai. Auspicious and blessed, graciousness sublime, all noble ends you give to us, granting us refuge, all seeing Gauri. O Mother Divine, our love to you. Creation, preservation, dissolution are your powers, eternal one. Nature's real basis, nature's essence. Blessed Mother Divine, our love to you. Blessed Mother Divine, our love to you. Blessed Mother Divine, our love to you. Jai Shri Ramakrishna Deva Ki Jai. Jai Shri Sarada Devi Ki Jai. Jai Shri Swami Vivekananda Ki Jai. Jai Shri Buddha Deva Ki Jai. Jai Shri Jesus Christ Ki Jai.